So in the memory management, already we have seen our processes will be divided into pages, and our main memory will be divided into frames, and the size of the pages and the size of the frame should be same, so that we can easily shift the pages from secondary storage to the primary storage. So that's what we have studied in third module. So moving ahead with virtual memory. So here, virtual memory is nothing but we are going to create illusion to the CPU that our main memory is larger than anything else. That is nothing but, just refer the basic diagram. See here, this is our logical memory, our virtual memory, which CPU asks us. In fact, this logical memory or virtual memory is greater than our physical memory. Only this physical memory our CPU can directly access, nothing else. But our secondary storage is greater than this primary storage. Most of our data will be there in secondary storage. Only some part of this secondary storage which CPU is trying to access will be brought to the main memory, and then that will be given to the CPU. But in most of the cases, our CPU, whatever it asks, it will be more than what is there in the physical memory. So in that case, when CPU asks something, if it is not there in the main memory, then what is the answer to the CPU from our side? Actually, it should be no, that we don't have that data. We should say no to the CPU. But what we are going to do now is, we are not going to tell CPU that I don't have that data. I will tell him I have the data. That means we are going to bluff the CPU in such a way that whatever the data he asks, even if it is not there in the main memory, then I will tell him a lie that it is there in my main memory. It will not be there, but I will tell a lie to him in such a way that by creating the illusion that all the data is there in the physical memory itself. How I will create that illusion to the CPU is, whenever he asks something, he will request the main memory whether the data is there. If it is not there, then I will send him a message that yes, data is there. Wait for a second, I will get you. Then in that moment, this main memory will contact the secondary memory and it will get it. So that contacting a secondary memory and getting that page is called as a this work will be done by our operating system. So whenever demand comes from the CPU side, that time only that particular page will be brought from secondary storage to the primary storage. So that is nothing but, even though our virtual memory, what CPU is asking, it is greater than main memory, but still we will tell a CPU that all the data is there in the main memory. That is nothing but, all the virtual memory cannot be stored in the physical memory, but still we will tell the CPU that all the data I have in the main memory, in such a way that even if you ask anything, I will tell yes, I have the data. Then what the operating system will do in that case, it will contact the secondary storage, then it will get one page from there which CPU is looking, and it will store here, and then it will forward it to him. So that getting the data from secondary storage to the primary storage will be done by our operating system. So that is why operating system plays an important role here. So the main reason of going for this is, we are going to bluff the CPU. That is nothing but, we are going to tell the lie to the CPU that all the data is there in the physical memory, because CPU know only how to access the main memory. CPU don't know how to access the secondary memory. It can access only the main memory. So we should tell the CPU that all the data is there in the main memory itself. In fact, it will not be there because the size of the main memory will be very limited. So in that case, whenever CPU asks, in that time, we have to bring some data from secondary storage to the primary, and whatever the data is not getting used in the main memory, that has to be sent back. Already in the previous model, we have seen swap in and swap out. Whichever the memory CPU request, that will be swapped in, and whichever the memory not in use, that will be swapped out. That is called as page in or page out, or swap in or swap out. But only thing going for the virtual memory is creating the illusion that our virtual memory is, physical memory is greater than the virtual memory. We are going to create that, but actually physical memory will be less than anything. It is not capable of holding all the processes. Only few processes it will be holding. Then whenever CPU demands any process which is not there in the main memory, then that will be brought from the secondary storage to the primary storage. This is what we call it as a demand paging. Also, the next important topic from this model is demand paging. Demand paging is nothing but, even though a page is not there here, then when CPU asks that particular page, we will not say the CPU that it is not there. We will tell him it is there. In that case, CPU, what it will do, any one of the frame, whether it is free in the physical memory, if yes, directly it will bring that page from secondary storage to the here, then it will store here and then give the access to the CPU. If it is not there, then if any frames are not free here, then any one of the data has to be sent back here, that is swap out. Then once the frame becomes free, then bring the data what CPU is looking and then give access to the CPU. That is what the virtual memory concept is. It is like we have to tell him a lie. Everything is with me only. Nothing is with a secondary person. If he asks anything if he ask any data which is there with a secondary person, we have to tell him that it is with me only. Then what I will do, I will contact the secondary person, I'll get that data and I will create an illusion that it was with me only. I have only given you the data. So CPU is least bothered. So CPU know only how to access main memory. So that's why we should create an illusion to the CPU that everything is with the main memory itself. That how to create an illusion, that is called as a demand paging. We will see in the next topic. First, you tell me whether the virtual memory concept is clear. Why? What do you mean by virtual memory? Virtual memory is nothing but it will be there in the secondary, but we are going to create an illusion to the CPU that everything is there in the main memory itself. So that memory we call it as a virtual memory, because always our virtual memory will be greater than the physical memory. So, but we should create an illusion that main memory is going to hold all the data. So that is what virtual memory concept. Is it clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then this is all about virtual memory introduction, how we can do it. Then now I'll directly go to the demand paging.
Sir?
Demand paging is nothing but, already I said. What do you mean by
Hello?
demand paging? Hello? Yes?
Sorry, for secondary memory only does not contain data.
Secondary memory?
Does not contain data.
Yes, it will be there in secondary only. No, all the data will be there in the secondary only. This is a secondary storage.
Okay, sir.
But whenever we need, whenever CPU asks that data which is there in the secondary storage, then the request will be sent to the main memory.
Okay, sir.
Because CPU don't know how to access the secondary memory. It will directly request the main memory. Then if it is not there here, actually our answer should be no, I don't have the data. But we are not going to tell him no. I will tell him yes, I have data. In that case, what I will do, somebody who is sitting idle in this main memory, I will send him out and then I will bring somebody whom CPU is looking. I will get him here. Then once I get him here, then CPU will easily access that. This is what the concept of virtual memory.
Yes, sir.
Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. Then next important topic is demand paging. In demand paging, what is that? Already I said. Now assume that page 0, page 1, page 2, and page some 100 pages are requested by the CPU. All those 100 pages will not be stored here because it is hardly having a 20 pages capacity. In that case, remaining 90 pages will be stored in the secondary storage. So if a CPU requests any page which is not there in the main memory, then what I will do is I have to find out any free frame here. If it is not available, what I will do, I will send somebody out from this who is not being used for the recently, which is not recently used. So that will be sent out, and then whichever the page CPU is looking, that will be brought in. So this is called as a demand paging. Whenever CPU demand, that time only if you are bringing the page from secondary storage to the primary storage. So this concept we call it as a demand paging. So let's look at another diagram here. Already this is a main memory. Here logical memory is not there. So program A and program B. In this case, what we are doing. So program A already got executed. Assume that it has already got executed, but it is sitting in the main memory. Then CPU is requesting for the program B. Then what the virtual memory concept will do here in this case, it will send out the program A from main memory to the backend, that is secondary storage. Then the frames will become free here. Then he will bring the program B. So this is nothing but demand paging we call. First we have to create some free space in the main memory. How we'll create a free space? By sending somebody who is sitting idle for the more amount of time. Program A might have got executed, or CPU is not requesting program A, whatever the scenario. If it is sitting idle in the main memory without being accessed by the CPU, then that program will be sent back to the secondary storage. How it will be sent? whom it will be sent again for that algorithms are there. Page replacement algorithm we call, we'll see that. But as of now, you understand program A is not being used recently. Then I will send him out. Then in place of him, I'll bring somebody else whom CPU is requesting. So this is called as making a free space in the main memory, so that by sending somebody out and bringing somebody in. So let's go back to the demand paging once again. So in this already in page table we have seen V and I. We have used some bits in the page table itself. Page table is having 3 columns. One is it is indexed by the page numbers, and then for that particular page is stored in which frame. The second column indicates that particular page is stored in which frame, and third one indicates V and I. What is that V and I? Anybody remember?
Valid bit and invalid bit.
Yes, valid and invalid. That is nothing but if the particular page is, if it is in the main memory, then it will be called as V. If it is already in the main memory, that is called as valid bit or a valid frame. If it is not in the main memory, then in that case where it will be in the secondary storage. If it is in the secondary storage, then that will be represented with the I. So that means it has not been yet loaded to the main memory. So this is required when we are studying the page table. So just come back to the demand paging. So here, just look at this diagram very clearly. These are the pages CPU is trying to access. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are 8 pages which CPU is trying to access. Then there is a page table. Then zeroth frame is stored, zeroth page is stored in 4th frame. See here, that is nothing but A is stored in 4th frame. Then 1, whether one page is loaded into main memory? No, it is not loaded. So that's why it is represented as I. It is not yet there in the main memory. That means it will be there in the secondary storage. So B is there in the secondary storage. Next, coming to the C, second frame, whether it is loaded? Yes, second frame is loaded in 6th frame, that is C. Then like that, all the frames which are hardly, I think how many has loaded, only 3 has got loaded into the main memory. When 3 has got loaded into the main memory, those 3 will be represented with the V, and remaining all which CPU is looking will be loaded with I, that is invalid bit. They have not yet got loaded. In this case, what we will do is when CPU comes, if it requests B, what we will do is we will check. First we'll come here, then whether the first page, whether it is loaded, no, it is empty. Then what CPU will do is, in this case, it will send a request to the operating system, whether it is there or no. In that case, operating system will check. Yes, it is there. Then he will check, is there any free blocks available here? Yes, definitely there are 3 blocks available. Only 3 blocks got allocated. Then what he will do, whatever the page CPU is looking, so that is B he is looking, then he will bring and he will paste it somewhere in the free space. So this is called as demand paging. When CPU asks the page, that time if you are bringing the page from secondary storage to the primary, that is called as demand paging. When you bring that page from secondary storage to the primary storage, then your page table should get updated in such a way that in which frame you will put that B, so that frame number should come here, and this I should get changed to V. You need to update your page table. But you are not bringing the page until and unless CPU asks. Randomly, I am not putting all. Of course, I can put all these pages into the main memory. It is possible. Hardly 10 pages are there. But I am not putting all those pages into the main memory until and unless CPU asks. When he asks, then I am giving him. So this concept, we call it as a demand paging. So that is what this I and V is used to check whether it is there in the main memory. If it is there, directly give access to the CPU. If it is not there, then get it from secondary storage to the primary storage, then update the page table, then give it to the CPU. So this is called as on-demand paging. When he demands something, then go and get it and give it. Of course, some time to access will be more in this case. If it is direct, for example, 0th page access time may be 5 seconds, then the first page access time may be 10 seconds. Because in second case, what we are doing is, it is coming to the main memory, it is checking whether it is there. If it is not there, then he is going and contacting the secondary memory, and then he is coming back, and then he is giving to the CPU. So in first case, 0th page access time will be, if it is 10 seconds, and first page, if you are getting from the secondary storage, then it will take a 10 seconds. But why we are doing all this kind of things is, in most of the cases, our processes will be more than the physical memory size. Assume that our main memory capacity is 1 GB. 1 GB capacity is there in the main memory, but our process size is 2 GB. Assume that you have written one program in such a way that it is a big program which size is 2 GB. Whether I am able to put that entire program into this main memory to complete the execution? No, because my main memory capacity is only 1 GB, but my program is 2 GB. In that case, this demand paging is required, because whichever the page he requests, that page will be kept in that only those pages will be kept in the main memory, and remaining pages will be there in the secondary storage. So we should create a illusion to the operating system that, sorry, not operating system, CPU, that I have all the data in the main memory itself, even though I am not able to hold all the data in the main memory. So that is the concept of demand paging. Is it clear, guys? What do you mean by demand paging?
Yes, sir.
Then coming to the next important topic of this particular model, in most of the question paper, either demand paging question will be there, or else this phase fault will be there. So before going to this phase fault, just go back to this diagram only. I will just tell you the definition of the phase fault here. Now assume that zeroth frame is stored in, zeroth page is stored in the fourth frame, and where the first page is stored, it is not yet stored. This block is empty. When CPU requests this first page, then it will check the page table whether it is there in the main memory. If it is not there, if it finds I here, then this is called as a page fault. Just clearly observe this. So if CPU asks something, if then immediately it will check page table whether that particular page is there in the main memory. Then if it is there, we will get a frame number. For example, 0th page is there in the 4th frame, so I'll get that, then I'll send it. Then when CPU asks the first page, but it is not allocated with the main memory, then definitely it will be empty, because no frame is allocated yet to the first page. Then it is already represented with the I. In this case, so if it doesn't find that particular page, then it is called as a phase fault. Phase fault has occurred. In the same way, second one, if CPU asks second page, it is already allocated with a frame. So this is a valid bit. It is not going to be a phase fault. Then in the third page, if CPU asks that is D, then it is not allocated with any frame in the main memory. Then this is also called as a phase fault. This is also called as a phase fault. This is phase fault. Phase fault. When CPU asks something, if it is not there in the phase table or a main memory, of course, if it is there in the main memory, then definitely phase table entry will be there. So it checks the phase table. If it doesn't find the entry in the phase table, then that is called as a phase fault. Means actually CPU is trying to access that particular phase, but which is not there in our main memory. So this concept, we call it as a phase fault. But we are not going to tell the CPU that phase fault has occurred. We will tell him that normal access is going to happen. Then how to handle this phase fault and who will handle that phase fault, that is a topic of phase fault. So this phase fault is nothing but CPU asks something. If it is not there in your page table main memory, then that is called as a, if there is a reference to a page, first reference to that page will trap to the operating system. That is nothing but, we'll directly go to the diagram. See here, CPU is asking this particular page called as yum. Then where we will check that directly, we will go to the page table, check the first number. This is handling of steps in handling the phase fault. Then we will go and check in the phase fault, phase table, then it will check whether it is there. Yes, it is I. I means M is not there in your main memory. Then whenever you find I here, this is nothing but phase fault has occurred. If phase fault has occurred, then what is the next task? How to handle this phase fault? We cannot say the same thing to the CPU that I don't have that particular phase. We are saying him the lie that I have that phase. Then somebody has to get that page to the page table. How we will get that? In that case, what we will do? So whenever phase fault occurs, then immediately there is an interrupt going to occur, that is called as a trap. Trap is nothing but trapped interrupt is going to get executed, and that will give a control to the operating system. So this is what we call it as a context switch. In the first model, I had given a question also in the IA to explain two dual mode context of your operating system. That is kernel mode and CPU, user mode. No control is given to whom? Operating system. Context has got switched. Till now it was in a user mode. Now the context is, whenever trap get executed, then immediately control will be given to the operating system. No operating system comes into the picture. What he will do? Okay, phase fault has occurred. That means CPU has asked something. that is not there in the main memory. Then what I have to do? The operating system thinks. Then immediately he contacts the secondary storage. CPU is asking something, whether it is there with you. Yes, if it is there with him, then he will identify, is there any free frames in the main memory? If so, then he will directly shift here. If there is no free frame, then he will send somebody out and then he will bring him. Then once he bring him, then go and update the page table. That is what reset the page table. Then he will come here and he will update that frame number where he has stored that particular page. Then this I will be getting changed to B. Then the access will be given to the CPU. So once again, clearly go through the numbers. The first step in handling the phase fault is whenever whenever CPU requests something, the first where we will check whether is there any frame allotment to that particular page. That we will check it in the page table. If it is not there in the page table, then it will be entries will be invalid. So this concept we call it as a phase fault. That is nothing but whatever the page CPU is looking that is not there in the main memory, that is called as a phase fault. Then immediately the trap will be executed. The trap is nothing but context switch will happen from user mode to the kernel mode. That is operating system will take care of this. No the control will be given to the operating system. Then operating system understand that there has phase fault has got occurred. Then he will contact the secondary storage. Then he will check is there a page what CPU is looking. If it is there, he will bring it to the main memory. Then once he bring it here, then he will get the frame where he is where he has stored that frame number will be stored here back, and then this I will be changed to B, and then the access will be given to the CPU. So first is reference to the page table, second is trap, third is accessing the secondary storage, fourth is bring in that page which CPU is looking, fifth is reset the page table. Once you get this page into the main memory, reset that. Then sixth is restart the instruction. Restart is nothing but now you tell that CPU that you can access the memory. You can access the page which is available in the main memory. That is nothing but you can restart the execution. So these are all the steps of handling our particular phase fault. So this is how we need to handle our phase fault. So that is what we call it as a phase fault. If the page is not there in the main memory, then you should do all these steps to get that page into the main memory. Guys, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Important question for the exam. In every question paper, it will be there. Explain steps of handling the phase fault. You need to explain with the help of this diagram. If the page is not there in the main memory, what all the steps you need to do to get that new page into the main memory. So these are all the steps we need to follow. This trap is nothing but context which will happen here. The control will be given to the operating system. So once the operating system gets the control, what is the task of the operating system? He will contact the secondary memory on behalf of CPU. Then he will get that page and he will store here. Once he store here, then frame number will be received. That frame number will be given to this page table. Then I will be changed to V. Then CPU can easily access. So this is what again demand paging. When CPU is asking, we are giving him the page. Of course, time drawback is there, but the advantage is if your program size is more than the main memory size, in that case, demand paging is very much required. But of course, at time to access the data is going to be double. If you are directly accessing from the main memory, then your time will be 10 seconds. If you are accessing through secondary storage, then time is going to be 20 seconds. So that is what we need to have some formula also for that. Just check here, effective access time. That is, if you are first check the second part of the formula. If you are accessing the page from secondary storage, what all the times will be involved in that? That is phase fault overhead. That is nothing but whatever the time you waste in handling that phase fault, service phase fault, whatever the steps we have followed, all these steps handling time is called as overhead time. Then swap pays out. That is nothing but if the frames are not free here, then I have to send somebody out that time. And if the page is once you send out somebody, then you have to bring in somebody. That is called as swap out, swap page in, then restart overhead. All this time together is called as one time. That is effective access time is equal to 1 minus P into memory access. If the data is there in the main memory, then that is called as 1 minus P into memory access. Whatever, for example, if your memory access time is 10 seconds, then 1 minus page fault, whatever the page he is looking into memory access, that is 10 seconds. Because if it is available directly, If it is not available, then what all the times are involved in that? Page fault handling time, swapping page handling time, then swap in time, and restart overhead. All this together we call it as a effective access time. So this is going to increase our effective access time definitely, because if your memory is there in the main memory, sorry, whatever the page CPU is looking, if it is there in the main memory, then the second part of the formula will not be there only. This part will not be there only. This will become 0 in that case. If the page is not there in the main memory, then this part will come, then definitely access time will get double. That's what I said. If your program is there in the main memory, then no issues, only 1 minus p into memory access. If it is not there, then you have to do all this drama, so that then we will get the page into main memory, then we can give access to the CPU. Then coming to the, is it clear guys how the page fault will be handled? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Then coming to the next process creation. This is one small topic. How process will be created. That is, in that there are two types. One is copy and write. That is memory mapped files. Just directly I'll go to the program. So in this case, that in this we call it as a copy on demand or copy and write. So process 1 and process 2 are, one is a parent process in this, one is a child process. So you assume process 1 is a parent, and then you can take it as process 2 as a child process. If you take process 2 as a parent, then you can take process 1 as a child. So in this case, what we will do is, we will allow both process 1 and process 2 to share the same pages. If they are parent and child, both can access same pages until and unless they don't modify anything. Now assume that process 1 is also accessing the page 1, process 2 is also accessing the page 1. Process 1 is also accessing page B, process 2 is also accessing. Process 1, C also accessing, process 2 also is accessing the C. It is allowed until and unless they are parent and child, and make sure that they are not editing either page A, page B, page C. They are just using it. They are not editing anything. For example, if they edit anything, no, assume that process 1 modify the page C. No, process 1 is going to modify the page C content. In that case, what we will do is, we will not give access to the process 1 directly. What we will do in that case, if he want to modify, then we will give a copy of process C to the process 1. That is nothing but page C copy will be given to the process 1. That is nothing but you will make two copies of the process page C. Then one copy which will be with the process 2 only. Then one more copy which process 1 wants to modify will be copied and given to him, so that whatever he can do, it is his own copy. When the copy will happen, only when if anyone wants to modify. If they are not modifying anything, then the same pages will be accessed. If they want to modify, then the copy of the particular page will be done. For example, if the process 2 wants to modify something in the page A, then the page A copy will be created and it will be given to the process 2. If the process 1 want to modify the page B, in that case, page B copy will be created and it will be given to the process 1. So whenever they want to modify, then only the copy of that particular pages will be created. Otherwise, the same pages will be shared between multiple processes, because the both processes having the same task, then definitely they can share the same pages. In this case, what is the advantage we are going to get is, handling of pages will be less, because both the processes are sharing the same pages, means transferring the pages from secondary storage to the primary storage will be less. But when we have to create a copy for each, only when they want to modify. If they are not modifying anything, then no need to shift them, then no need to divide them. So directly you can give access to the n number of processes. For example, if a process 1 has a 10 childs, all 10 childs can share the same pages only until and unless they don't modify anything. If they say that I want to modify somebody, then we have to create a copy of that particular page and then give it to him, so that let him modify and let him store it in the main menu. So this is what we call it as a copy and write. So this concept we call it as a copy on write. So only when you are writing, then you copy it. Otherwise, no need. Same pages can be shared by all. Is it clear, guys? What do you mean by copy on write?
Yes, sir. Clear.
Then The next topic is page replacement. From this, definitely one problem will be there in your exam, that is page replacement algorithm. So I'll just give an introduction of this. The actual algorithms we'll study in the next class only, because already it is 10:30. Even at 10:40, I think call will get disconnect. So I'll just give an introduction of this page replacement. What do you mean by page replacement? So I just said in the previous diagrams, I'll just quickly go back. So if page is not there in the main memory, then what CPU is doing? Then it is contacting the operating system. Operating system is bringing that page into the main memory. So here, assume that this particular frame is not free. Then what I have to do? I have to shift this person out of the main memory, then bring the new person into the main memory. So this is called as page replacement. Assume that all these blocks are already got filled. No block is free in this particular main memory. In that case, in order to get somebody from secondary storage to the primary, then I have to send somebody out from the main memory to the secondary. So whom I have to send, that decision has to be taken. So that technique we call it as a page replacement technique. Whom we have to select, how we have to select, whom I have to send, how I have to send, all those things, all those questions has to be answered now. Whether I have to send him first in, first out, or last in, first out, or most recently used, or least recently used, whom I have to send out, because they will be occupying some space in the main memory. Then in order to get the new person inside, I have to send somebody out. Then only the blocks will get free here, so that I can bring a new person. Then for that purpose, we call it as a page replacement strategy. So what happens if the page is not free if there is a no free frame? That is what I said. If the frames are not free in your main memory, in that case, what we have to do is page replacement has to be done. Page replacement is nothing but whatever the pages which are sitting in the main memory for the longer time, ideal or least recently used, whatever the some logic will apply there to shift them, then replace that page which is sitting in the main memory with a page which is coming inside. Then find some page in the main memory but not really in use, swap it out, which is not being used for the longer time. So that page you send out and bring the page which CPU is looking. So that concept we call it as a page replacement. To do this, there are n number of algorithms whom I have to target, because I cannot directly remove randomly or without any knowledge. I have to follow some strategies. Which process I have to send out? Either I have to send the process based on in order in which they have come, that is first in, first out, or I have to send the processes based on least recently used, or I have to send the processes in such a way that who are sitting more amount of time ideal in the main memory. Which logic will be applied? So those two logics are called as a page replacement algorithms. There are many algorithms how we can send the page out. For that, again, here page replacement strategy is there. So this we will see it in the next class, how the page replacement diagram works. And then directly we'll go to the algorithms. The next class, definitely you are going to get 10 marks problem in the exam, and problems are very simple, but only thing you need to understand them very clearly. Then whatever the sequence he give, you need to map them and send some processes out and get some processes in. So those algorithms and strategy, we'll see it in the tomorrow's class, so that the most important topics of this particular models will get over. Then we can start with the next topic. Is it clear, guys, whatever the topics we have covered today?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Clear.
Okay. Okay, shall I close the class?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.